Hey everyone, this is Karen with Over the Artsy Moon, and we're going to be painting this type of painting. This is our Firefly Summer, and the only thing I'm going to do a little differently is bring the moon slightly down lower, or not put as many of those leaves under there. So just a fun, easy one for the summer or whatever time of the year. Maybe you want to do a fairy background. It would be kind of pretty to have that as well. As far as colors, we're going to use white and black and burnt umber. And we're also going to use turquoise and ink spot, just a nice dark blue there. And then you are welcome to blend up your greens for the leaves and stuff, but I'm just keeping it super easy with a hunter green, bright green. This one's happy green, but you could use any lime or chartreuse green that you would like. And then a light yellow, this one's called Daybreak. All right, so we are also going to be using, I'm going to use a couple of these, I forgot the name of them, pouncers, I think, pouncers. This one is 3/4 of an inch, and this is a 1/2 inch. Mostly we're going to use the smaller size, but you could use multiple sizes, totally what you have, or you could always paint a little dot and then use your finger to rub it in. But this would be easier to get a bunch of those if you're doing it for yourself or a paint party. 3/4 or 1 inch flat, and the number 6 or number 8 round brush. And then this one is an option. We're going to be doing some of those grasses at the bottom. So if you feel like you have a heavy hand, you might want to get a smaller brush to do those grasses, but I'm probably just going to use that medium-sized brush to do the grasses. And then I traced the tree, the basic tree, onto the canvas, and I used a black permanent marker to trace over it. Right, so that is basically it, and we are going to get started. So we're going to take our larger flat brush, get it wet, wipe it off here, and then just pat it onto your, I have some blue on there, I was doing something. I've got some blue, but we're gonna just go for it. Okay, so you scoop up some white and think about where you want that moon. Probably somewhere in the middle right here in between these branches, and you can put some down. And then the method we're going to do is to push and come around with our brush. Okay, so we're just going to make a little circle with our brush, and I'm kind of far on the handle just so I can show you, but if you want to go a little closer you can. And don't be afraid to go over the circle a little bit. And we're going to keep the background paint fairly thin, thin coat onto the canvas, just so it'll dry faster, and we're not going to cover that up completely. All right, and then we're going to scoop up some of that turquoise or that aqua. What was it called? I think it was aqua. No, I think it was turquoise. And then we're going to come right kind of in the, like a little bit away from that moon. Okay, so just push it down there, and I got a big blob there. We're going to come away a little bit, and we're going to start blending that away from that moon. Just leave a little, like a 1/4 inch or something, and then you can come in a little closer. And if you have a different way of doing this, that is totally fine. And I'm looking like I'm coming in a little too much, like my moon is getting lost. That's okay, we're going to fix it later, okay? So I think I came over my edge of my moon, so I'm just going to come in a little bit more and not worry about making it too small. I'll just sort of make a circle, but I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. So I don't know if this ever happens to you, but that's one of those little paint boogers. So we're just going to smooth this out, and we're not going to have it too heavy on here at all. We just want to kind of make this donut shape around that circle, more or less where that moon is going to be. And then you can scoop up some more of that turquoise and just keep on going around. Okay, so we could grab a little bit of white on here and just come back toward the middle part here, and we're going to spread that out around here. And just going to take care of something here, and I'm going to just bring my brush around here And I'm smoothing it out as I go, and then I'm going to keep on expanding the size of that circle. So I can take the turquoise on my brush here, and I'm just going to bring this out. So all the way around, and I will have a smaller size of that ring up there. That's okay. So I'm going to keep on scooping this up, and we're going to be moving into that blue pretty soon, the dark blue. So smooth it out, make sure it's not too thick on your canvas. Okay, and if it looks fairly symmetrical, more or less, that is just fine. It's not supposed to be perfect at this point. Then scoop up some of that blue. You notice I didn't wash my brush. We're just gonna come next to that circle, and here's where you can kind of think about it being more of a circle around. Okay, so if that turquoise comes into your blue, that's okay. Just take some more blue, fill it in, because you might be pulling it in from that turquoise into the darker areas, and we're going to make it work. And yours will probably not look exactly like mine, because I'm sure mine don't look exactly like mine from the time I did it before. And honestly, a lot of this is going to be covered up with the tree and the other things going on in the painting. So don't sweat the small stuff. This is one of those big background things, but in the end, it's gonna mostly be covered up anyway. So we're just getting a base here, and we're gonna start to fill this in and get everything going the way we want it. Okay, so try to go pretty fast for these big areas. Grab a whole bunch of paint, fill in the areas. As long as you don't have big blobs sitting on your canvas, will be all good. It will take a long time to dry if you put it on really thickly. Notice I'm getting some little blobs of white in here, or maybe that's that turquoise. I just keep on blending until those are pretty much gone. Okay, and then I can start coming up closer here, grabbing some of that turquoise. If you're going fast enough, it's still going to be a little bit wet, so that would be perfect. And I haven't done the edges first right now. It's kind of important to be able to hang on to this, so you might want to just wait to paint those edges until we get to the end. Okay, so here we go. And so I'm going to work on the dark blue first. Make sure the edges are all pretty good with that dark blue. If you need more dark blue to just get it a little darker, you can. And then just go feather light here. You just want to kind of brush it in that curve around. Okay, so it's not going to be dark blue. It's just going to have some blue. Then without washing your brush, grab some of that turquoise and come along right along the edge, right in the middle of those two. And I got one of those little pieces again. All right, so I'm coming around the middle of that line between the two, and I'm just coming here. Okay, so I'm gonna start to blend those two a little bit more, like so. Okay, and if you have a certain way you like it and you love the way it's looking, don't keep blending, because you can't go back. You can't click that undo button. Just stop when you're happy with it. Okay, and then I'm going to come in, and I like a little bit of that blue showing, as long as it's coming down the curve like that. Okay, so rinse your brush really well once you're here, and it's not 100% symmetrical, but it's still got that nice glow, and it's mostly round, right? And I'm going to rinse my brush really well. This middle part is already dry on me, so I'm going to come back with some more white. So the important part right with this step is, even though this looks really gross, it's like old paint. You want to wash your brush as well as you can in that blue water, but then try to pull out most of the white, or that color, onto your rag or paper towel. And then you can go back to your white here and you're just gonna bring it around like we did before. And the fact that the turquoise is showing underneath is gonna help it look like it has a little bit of a glow around it. Okay, if you would rather do this with your other paintbrush, the smaller one, you can, but it is harder to get this kind of glow if sorry, I'm concentrating here and losing my train of thought. It's harder to get that glow if you don't have this big brush. Okay, so I need a little bit more white, I think, and I'm going to just pull it down slightly, I think. My tree is gone completely, but I kind of know where it is. Once we dry it, it should reappear. All right, now this is up to you how big you want to make this. I think my moon just got really big. But you know what I could do if I think it's too big, which I think it is. I'm going to just wet my brush slightly and come in and just make this part of it. So you might not have this issue. My moon got too big. I lost it in the middle there. Aren't you glad I'm showing you how to fix a problem? I'm kind of finding it's here, but it's not going to work completely until I dry this off a little bit. So if this happens to you and you don't have a blow dryer, just let it dry. It only takes a few minutes to dry. So I'm going to let this middle part dry. Okay, let me check. Yep, that's good. And then I'll scoop up some more of the white, and it should be dry if you want that moon to show. So it's very glowy, isn't it? Let me add a little more. Okay, I think I'll make it a little bit bigger. I just have to push down a little more to make it a little wider. If you feel nervous about this, about doing this, you can always just, whoops, I went over. You can always hand draw a circle, like trace something and then fill it in. It's nothing wrong with doing it that way. And in that case, you wouldn't have to have everything like this. With, you could just do the turquoise color going around, and I'm just going to fix that little spot where I slipped. Grab a baby wipe. Before it's too dry, grab a baby wipe, wrap it around your finger, and then just very lightly fix whatever mistake you had. Okay? All right. It's actually kind of nice to, I don't know how it's going to dry like that, but we'll see. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so it will always turn out differently here, okay? There's no way to get it to be exactly the same. This one is definitely more of a glow. You can see the difference there. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it, but if you wanted more of a glow, I would just let this dry a little bit. Let me show you how to do that. Sometimes it just happens like that, and you can't really, I'm going to get that area around it dry. You can't really always get it to behave completely, but I'm going to just go slightly, let me fill this in a little bit here, then I'm going to go slightly over the edge, slightly, and try to come around evenly, and then it's got more of that glow. So personal preference, however you want to do it. No wrong way, okay? Okay, just make sure the middle is mostly filled in and you're pretty happy with how that turned out. So if I want to make that glow even more, I can just kind of come around like this, and then it'll look more deliberate. Okay, and then in order for you to see your tree, you're going to want to take a little break and let it dry, or use a blow dryer or your craft tool to dry the area where the tree is. And hopefully my tree shows up. I can kind of see it. But if not, I'll just wing it, and then you'll see how to wing it. I can see the trunk here. Okay, and then we're going to be needing to get the black for this part. We're going to start with black for our first layer. Okay, and then we're going to be layering that too. So I'm going to use this brush still. If you were nervous about that, just use it for the big parts, but I'm going to put my the flat part into the paint and flip it over and just get those bristles saturated. And then I'm going to I'm trying to see how that, I'm trying to make it look like the example. So I know part of my design has kind of disappeared here. So as much as I told you to stay with light paint, for some reason it really got covered up. So we're just going to do our best here. We're going to come up like so. And I think I kind of went like this. And went like that, and over here. And like I said, this is going to be covered up with a lot of leaves. So we're not worried about it being a certain exact way. Okay, so this one is going to come up here, more or less. And then we have this coming here. And then we're going to come about here, something like this, and then we come up here, and this one branches out here, sort of like that. This gets filled in. So I'm just going with the skinny side of my brush. There's a lot of paint on it. And then there was, let me get some more on my brush. There's one that came up about here, one came up over here, one came off here and divided up, and then I had one sort of like this over here. You know, see all those V's? That's what this is kind of famous for, and we have one more I'm going to do here. Trees are famous for V's. Oh my gosh, that sounded so silly. I apologize for my silliness, but sometimes it happens. Okay, we don't realize how silly we sound until we say it. All right, and then I'm going to come down here with this one, and then there's going to be one that comes here. All right, so it is looking a little goofy here. Maybe I'll just make this a little thicker. All right, I think that looks a little better. Just think about it. Usually it's going to be thicker below and then a little skinnier as it goes. Not too worried about it being perfect because trees rarely are. And then we're going to be doing the grass below this. So I'm going to do the same thing with my big brush here. I'll show you two ways to do this. Most people like to use a smaller brush, but you can have the skinny side of your brush and you're going to just push up like this. Okay? But it's a little hard for some people to do this. So we're going to just go ahead and wash this. Okay. And then we're going to get our medium round brush like this. Okay, so you can get that one wet and just dip that into the black, and then try not to hold it too closely. You want to hold it kind of loosely, and then keep on reloading your brush, and just you start on the edge and you flick up. And what we're going to do is kind of make these go higher, lower in the middle, and higher on the edge. So just get used to it a little bit. And then I'm gonna come back over here and make some of these a little higher on the edge. This is only our first layer. We're not trying to make this perfect. By the time we're done with all these layers for the grass, you're gonna just love how it looks, okay? So that's the nice thing with these layers. We can see when you make a little mistake like that, in the end, I don't even know if it's a mistake, but it's not what I like. So I will assure you that by the time we finish, it's gonna all be great. So you're just going to come around, and then when you get to the end here, you can make those edges a little higher. And if you're going off the edge and painting your edges, this might be a good time to go ahead and do that so that you can have your finished edges. You probably still have that turquoise and the black and the dark blue to do your edges. So remember, I told you to hold off on that just so that you could hold on to your canvas when you were working with it. Now, just one more thing with this black, we're going to just come in at the base here and just do little tiny flicks. So we're filling in all the bottom part of the canvas here. And then we won't have to worry about that looking goofy with the blue sky down there later. So just coming up a little bit like so, filling in. And I'm almost having my brush on the side here to fill in bigger gaps. Okay. And you can go off the edges if you're doing the edges as well. And it's already looking interesting, right? Okay, so we can rinse our brush. And you know, I'm looking at my other example, and I don't think I came down as low with this blue, this turquoise I should say, or the aqua, whatever color it was. I think I had more of the dark blue last time. It really doesn't matter. It's all going to look great. So just see whatever happens is going to happen and work out fine. Now we're going to add some of this burnt umber to our plate here, or our palette area. And take that medium round brush, and we're just going to mark out some little kind of curves in our tree. And I want you to kind of think about the letter S. So if you did a flat letter S like that, you see how that looks? We're going to do a bunch of those coming down. So we're going to come over here and then all the way over, and just they don't have to be in an exact spot or anything. Just start making those. If you get too much paint on there, you can make them a little wider on this side, or they can kind of be connected. They don't have to be though. They're just a little, you're going to show, and as I go farther down here, we're just showing like that there's a little bit of a curve. We'll build on this so it's not going to look so goofy, but as I get farther down, I'm kind of flattening it even more and making it almost vertical. Okay, I know it looks a little weird right now. I might just kind of curve here and come over here, and I'm not going to do it too much with these because these are not quite super curved or anything, but this one I'm going to bring up a little bit more, and we can just kind of have a slightly curved line, the same curve as that shape of the moon. Okay, and then you can just put a little bit of the brown on top of those stems. If you go off a little bit, that's okay, it doesn't matter. You can make it a little wider if it's too skinny looking. You can widen these out to look more like they belong to the branch and they're not just some little random sticks. Okay. And then we're also going to take this brown and just add a few more little brown grasses down here. So we should have one at the end. The ones at the end are kind of high, but just add a few brown layers to give it some more depth. So this will be a continuous thing. We'll do something here and then we'll repeat it until we get done with our leaves and our grasses. And by the way, what was I going to say? I don't know what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought. All right, maybe it'll come back to me. Okay, so you can rinse that off. And before this dries completely, we're going to get some white in there. So we're going to take some white on our brush. And if it's dry, it's okay, but I'm just warning you, it'll look a little weird initially. So we're going to put some white on there and just kind of find those curves, okay? Find the curves. You already did them with the brown. Okay, you're just coming to the top of those curves. Okay, and then once you've done a little bit before it dries, you're going to go back and kind of blend that in, grab some more brown and just blend it in. You can kind of go over what you just painted a little bit. So you're just sort of coming over it, almost blobbing it on top to get that look. And by the time we're done, we're going to still add another layer back of black on top of this. So it does have that dramatic white right now, but it will be okay in the end, I promise, even though it looks goofy right now. And you could just have a plain tree too. You don't have to do this fancy stuff if you don't want. You could just keep it kind of simple. Oh, I forgot the white first. So we're going to come back up here, a little white, and see, I'm not trying to be perfect with it. I'm just adding a little bit to those areas that I already put the brown, maybe a little bit, especially like on this one right here. It's catching the moon pretty full, and then maybe like the bottom of these branches a little bit, okay, where the moon might be hitting slightly. Okay, and then we can just blend that with a little brown. Okay, so you're covering up a little bit, but you're also letting a little bit show. I forgot this guy here, so just look at the ones that you had. And like I said, you don't have to do this, but I just want to show you some options. I went too far down there. I'm not too worried. I'm gonna be able to cover that up with my leaves. But I want to have this layer down before I go ahead and do the leaves, because it will be hard to come back to it later. All right, and then I'm not going to bother rinsing my brush, but just take a little black on there. And then you're going to just kind of take some black right on top of what you've already done, especially from on the right side. That's away, so we can kind of come along the right side and just blend that down on the right side. And then we can come over top a little bit. So try to get that curve, but we're not going to overly think it. It's just going to make it look like a little bit of an older gnarled tree, kind of to go with our fairy setting, but for our fireflies, of course. Oh, oops, I'm in the black. That's what I'm supposed to be using. So just adding a little black in there to get back with some of that depth, or if it felt like it was too much, like I kind of did. I have a little mess up here, I'm talking. I'm just going to add a little bit back in there, a little bit black here. You can curve the branch back if it needs to be curved, and then I'll just kind of repeat that in other places. So come back with that curve. And if you do this and really don't like it, just let it dry for 2 minutes and then you can paint over it. But I think you might like having a little bit more texture, and you see how gnarled it's looking here. I like this section here because it's a little bit more dramatic, so I'm going to come in back with a little black and then just mix it up with a little brown in here, so it's a little lighter. But you may or may not like it, so try it, see what you think. If you like it, do it. Okay. I think that works okay. I'm going to just do a little bit more light. If it ends up having it, if it ends up showing here, then at least it'll be slightly lighter on that side of the branch, or the trunk, or the branch. Yep. Okay, so let's wash off our brushes and we're going to move on to the leaves. since this is still a little wet, we'll do the first layer of green for the grasses down here. So I'm going to start with the hunter green. Might as well pour out all my greens, and then I've got my bright green. Like I said, you can mix up any colors you want if you don't want to have all these different kind of greens, but it's easy enough to do it this way, right? Okay. Whoops, yellow. We're going to use yellow in here too. And so this is, we're going back to that medium brush, round brush. And then you can just take that green on your brush and we're just gonna make some of our little grasses. So remember, you can have some in front of the tree too. Now that we've done it, we can add some in front. Okay, and try not to cover up exactly what you had before. We're just gonna start making some of these layers. Keep on reloading your brush because it does get used up pretty quickly on a smaller brush. And if you run out, you can always go back on top of another of a stroke that you already did. Like these, the green is really kind of getting lost there. All right, now for the first set of leaves, we're gonna dip into that dark green and then the bright green. So we have both on our brush, and we're just going to start pressing, and we're gonna overlap. We're gonna come off, keep on reloading your brush and just pressing down and making these little leaf shapes. There's gonna be spaces here. We're gonna come back with other greens. So we're not gonna be like, ooh, I have to have it perfect the first time, because it is all gonna get layered, and you don't have to have everything covered up the first time. It wouldn't be that great. So start with the branches that you do see, okay, as opposed to the imaginary ones I'm talking about, right? And then at the end of those, you can make little ones, little leaves coming off, okay, if you like that. And so you can do like what's obvious and cover up some of the branches from before, and then you can go off a little bit there. So you're dipping into both. And I'm just going over things and I'm coming off a little bit. If you get too big of a blob, you can always come back, but it really is okay if you have a blob of paint there. That's not an issue. This side is going to stay a little darker. It's away from the moon. And it's up to you how far you want to take these leaves. Like you could just have it a small, kind of low key tree, or you can go crazy like I did with this one. I went all over the place with these leaves, but you don't have to do it so dramatically. It could be a lot less. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up with this first layer. We'll see, we might want to add more of these, but we can just take it step by step and then see what appeals to us and what looks good. And then I'm going to put some on here as well. Let's see, we'll do this one. So you see how the leaf is kind of adjusting to how the branch is, but you could have them in different directions. I'm just trying to keep it simple and kind of pleasing, hopefully. And I think I forgot a branch right here. I don't know if I had one there. I think I had a little one right here. So if you want to add a little branch, just grab a little bit of brown, and we're just gonna, you don't even have to do this part, but just put a little bit there to just visually see what you're doing. Okay, and then we can take those two and colors And as long as you don't go mixing too much, you can put it right on top. Okay, so I'm gonna have that one coming close to the moon. It might go over a little bit, but it might not. We'll see. I don't know, kind of wants to go over a little bit. And then we're gonna take this bright green and we're gonna come down here and just keep on reloading your brush. Move your brush so it goes different directions, and then if your paint is getting too thick, you can loosen it up, especially for this. It's easier to do these grasses if your paint is loose. So pull and twist. Okay, you're gonna pull and twist, and then if you have a nice point on your brush, you're gonna get a better result. Oops, that wasn't good. It's okay. It should blend right in later. Okay, so don't worry, it's all good. Just loosen it up if you need to, pull and twist. Okay, and then let's have one that kind of goes a little higher up here and a little higher over on this side. Okay. Maybe over here a little bit. Need a little more paint there. And then we're gonna go with our light greens. So I'm just gonna go with that chartreuse color now. And I think I forgot to put the green on this branch right here. So let me just add a little bit, whoops, let me add a little bit to that one. We'll just go right on top. Okay, and we can bring our leaves down. So this is a great way to cover up any areas if you didn't like your branches for whatever reason. So now we're going to just start layering. And when I talk about layering, we don't want to cover up everything, but we're just going to come in with this other color. And it's going to pick up those greens that are there already because they're not going to have dried yet. And you're just going to start overlapping and just coming around. And you're not worried about, you know, being in a specific spot for this one. You're just going to blob these on. When you run out of paint though, you got to grab some more of that light green and just start doing some more layers. Okay, and I'm going out a little farther this time. Come down here a little bit on the bottom of the branch. You can twist your brush, you'll have some fresh paint probably on the other side. Try not to overthink this because you'll be like, oh, I have to be perfect with these, but just blob them on. Try to just blob them on and not overthink it, just have fun. When you start thinking about every little blade of grass and every leaf, then you might like that, but most people are probably going to be like, oh, this is kind of stressful. I'm not really enjoying this. All right, so now we have another layer, and now I'm going to take that lime green and I'm going to make some more grasses. Oop, that one got thick. No worries. Okay, let's also add just a little water to this for this part, so you can just keep on dipping in and blending it up. Then take your brush and pull and twist, and you're going to get some better, oh yeah, that's better. And like I said, if you would rather use a smaller brush here, you sure can. If you're painting more slowly, these areas will probably be pretty dry by the time you get to them. I'm going to go over here before I forget. So you won't have too much blending, but if you're a faster painter, they may blend, and either way is going to work out great. Okay, now we're going to go with yellow, just a little yellow, and we're going to actually blend this up with a little bit of that green. So pull some yellow onto your brush, mix it up with that chartreuse green. Even take a little white in there. We're going to use the yellow for the fireflies, but we'll get some of this on the underside of it especially. So we're going to be more selective here. Look for some empty spots on the bottom. So if you need to connect anything, just keep on going back to that color that you mixed, because you want to keep that unmixed with the other areas, and think about the bottom that this moonlight might be hitting. Okay, and we're going to keep those areas a little brighter. And then this part here, it would be the top part that's going to get the light on the leaves, if that makes sense, because it's closest to the moon. This branch over here, this branch on the bottom, and let's see, maybe we can put a few leaves over here. Okay, and we can take this, you can mix some more yellow in there with that and just do a few little yellow grasses here too. This is all your discretion. If you don't want yellow grasses, you don't have to. But I think it brightens it up and brings so much light to this painting. So that's what I like about this painting, is that it does have a lot of light in it. Okay, maybe I'm just going to put a little bit right there. Yes, because that was so important to have that little leaf there, right? Talk about not getting carried away, right? All right, so rinse off your brush, and you can do, you know, these leaves however you want. If you want to have a few extra ones, like maybe I just want to have, I'll mix up a little yellow and green. Maybe I'll just put a few kind of coming down here. You could have these how you want, okay? So I'm going to make them a little fatter to go with the way the others are. Your hand will be different, so just be aware. They don't have to look just like mine, and they can go in different directions too. All right, what am I on now? Now it's time for, let's see. Let's do some white. Okay, we're gonna just take the white and we'll do the same thing, just a little bit here and there. Okay, on the inside where the moon would be catching the light here. So just sparingly, just a little bit here and there. And I'm going to just move my brush slightly here and there just to catch that light. And I'll do the same, a little more white just on the side that would catch the moon. Okay, and then we can add some white down here too. And just for this white, just keep on reloading. If it's not thin enough, maybe add a little water to it so it gets more of a flow. This moon is catching the light, or the grass, and causing it to be shimmery and kind of radiant in the moonlight. Okay, and so I did mention that you could use a smaller brush for this, so if this is making your life feel a little bit stressed, then go for it. Just switch it up. All right, my tree has dried a little bit, so if I want to try making some of those little curves a little bit brighter, I can take a little white, put it into that brown, that burnt umber, and just deliberately find a curve again if I need to. So that does kind of help, doesn't it, to make those curves. So don't reinvent the wheel, but if you have some from before that dried light, you can always come back here and just go over a few of them. So just do a little bit of white, a little bit of brown, and just kind of find those again. And just make it up. It's not going to look like mine, and that's fine. Just want to curl. If you want this kind of tree. All right, so you can put a few in here too, if you can still see those branches. But the branches are pretty much covered up. And that one got a little bit bright. Whoops. All right, there we go. I'll just add a little brown. Okay, I think that's okay. So rinse off your brush, and if you're happy with your tree, then you can say, I love you, tree. You're wonderful. Phenomenal. Okay, we are going to go ahead and do our little dots on our grasses. Okay, so what we're going to do for that is take whatever your smallest brush is, the handle, and you're going to just dip into that yellow. Oh no, it was supposed to be the green. Okay, dip into that light green, and then whichever ones you want, you can just dot, 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 get some more, and then you're gonna be going up a little bit and kind of skinny. Okay, so you're making some little flower, little grassy flower thingies, whatever we're gonna call them, and just make them varying heights. If you're making a smaller one, you can just do it without redipping. Reloading, and then don't do too many. It's going to be easier to come back and add more than come back and have to take them away. All right, so I'm kind of just going on the green ones, but you can pick any color you'd like. If you want to have tons of color in this painting, you could always come back with other colors. I'm going to cover up my little mistake here where I went over. Okay, I went on the white stem, doesn't matter. Okay, this one kind of went off to the side. Just play with it and have fun. And I'll make this one a little higher, I think. So they're just mostly slightly wider at the base, and then they get skinnier at the bottom or at the top. And I usually go straight up and down, but if you like the look, if by going sideways, that works too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think that's enough. I feel like I want one right just a little bit on the edge here. And maybe I'll put one right on the edge coming off there too. Okay, that's good. We're going to add some white highlights there in a little bit, but we'll just let that be the first layer, and you can wipe this off onto your rag. And then we're going to start working on our fireflies. Okay, so you want to have your white available, and I would say, whoops, with the two pouncers, you're going to have mostly the small ones, but we can do some big ones first. So you're going to pounce into that paint, and there's quite a bit there. You don't want to put that on right away. I want you to pounce off and get rid of some of that paint. Okay, and then you can decide where you would like to have your first firefly. So I'm going to put a big one, maybe it's just slightly overlapping on that tree. And before it dries, you're going to take your finger and you're just going to start in the middle and just come out of that circle slightly. So you get a little glow around it. And then you can just wipe your finger on your rag or your paper towel. I'm going to still just use this because it has a lot of paint on it still. and I'm going to just find another spot, just give it a little wiggle. I've got less paint this time, but it might work better. If you're putting it onto the stuff that you already did, you might not like the result because it's going to pick up the wet paint. So you probably want to wait a little bit before doing too much. And then don't have these like all in a row, like all straight across. You want to vary the height and where you have them. So I'm going to put one here. There's still quite a bit of paint on that one. And maybe one right here. I'm going to do 5 big ones, and then I'm going to do the rest small, but that's just going to be my personal choice. So 2 here, maybe one bigger one about there. And don't forget, you're going to need to wash these off too, or they will get wrecked. So I'm just going to dip it into my, now that I'm ready, I'm going to dip it into my water and then just set that down, and I can wash it later. Okay, and then the rest I'm going to do the small one, or I'm going to be using the back of a paintbrush again. So same thing, and then tap off onto a clean spot, and then have fun just coming up with little sections. Maybe I'm going to put one right next to a big one. Same thing, give it a little blend with your finger. Let's put one right over here. But please just feel free to do these wherever you would like. I'm going to put one on the edge of the moon, I think, like one right here. It's going to have a little bit of yellow in it, so it's going to glow and just kind of be a little bit of fun. Let's go with one over here. I don't want it right exactly across. Maybe I'll put one right here. Okay, let's see, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I usually like an odd number, something about that, and I like having little groupings, so you can kind of decide how you want to do it. Same thing, I'm done with this one now. I'm going to just put it in the water and then let it sit and make sure I clean it up when I'm done. And we're going to do take our smaller brush, or if you want to use that medium-sized brush, you can too, but I've got the smaller one, so I might as well use it. Start in the middle of these bigger ones and then just come out with the yellow, but you don't want to go past the center that you originally did. Just have that white glowing around the outside. I'll get my big guys done first. Guess it doesn't really matter. I say that and then I go to a small one. So the alternative to the I keep on calling them daubers in my head, to the pouncers is just to put some, like a dot onto your canvas and then take your finger and smush that into a circle. It's just a little easier to get these circular with the pouncers. I think you can get them on Amazon in a big package too if you're doing a paint party. Okay, that's looking good. And I'm going to rinse this side of the brush. And we're going to do some little baby fireflies that are in the background. So we could start with this one and just see how this goes if we do some ones that are slightly bigger. So we could do some smaller ones. Maybe we'll do a little cluster. And you will kind of run out of paint too, right? So Don't forget to go over the tree if you're doing them kind of in as if they are all flying together. I don't know if they do that or not, but so you could kind of have like a wave going, or you could just kind of have some random little areas. I'll have a couple over here. Depending on how hard you press, you'll get bigger or smaller dots. And don't be afraid to come on top of one that was not like how you liked it. And the tendency here would be to overdo it. So I would just caution against doing too many of these. You want a sense of playfulness, but you also don't want them to kind of take over the painting either. So I ended up using the bigger handle here, but try whatever you like, okay? So we can also have some up higher, especially if you have like a bare area. You could have them in the trees, a few little dots. I don't know how much they're going to show up, but it will end up giving you a little bit more lighting, just natural highlights up there. Okay, let's see, maybe, you know what, maybe I'll switch to that smaller one. We can put some down here in the grasses too. So I'm going to rinse that off and then switch to my smallest one. Do a few down here in the grasses. When you have a tiny little brush, it will require that you continually go back. They're not going to show up too much, and you don't want to confuse people with those dots either too much, but just add a few here and there and see what you want to do. Put some more on the tree here. Let's see. I would take a picture at this point with your camera, and just so you can see what you're looking at. Sometimes it's hard to just see where it might need a little bit of extra without taking over. And if I want to kind of have this to be fanciful, I could also have these kind of coming up sort of like that and connecting, but I don't want to overdo it either. So I'm going to just analyze this for a couple seconds, and I think that might be good. Maybe just a couple random dots, and like a couple here, here, here. That one needs a little more love. Whoops, still not. There we go. There we go. And one there. Okay. Really, you can do it however you like, okay? And now we're going to go back to that white. If your white is getting droopy or gloopy, I should say, then you can always add a little bit of water or pour some new stuff. And then just come kind of in the middle of these and just give it a little bit of white to turn this more into a flower, because it'll connect those a little bit and separate them from the firefly dots. If they were a different color, yeah, for sure they would stand out, but they're kind of that green. But I want to keep the palette simple, so we've got a lot of colors already if you're not mixing up your own greens, but I think it's okay. You can always pare it down if you like. It's kind of fun to do the dot art. I don't know if you've ever done that, but I like it a lot. Not that I've done a ton of it, but I know people who have done it and they liked it, and I like what it looks like. I just haven't done a ton of it, but this is kind of enjoyable. or you might find it tedious. So hopefully you're enjoying it. All right, I think that is good. What do I still need to do? Like I said, if you want to add more leaves, you can. Just compare these two. Okay, so that's mine. It's a little pared down with the leaves compared to this one. It's really got a lot more leaves. But they both give you the same idea, and there's no right or wrong with these kind of paintings. They're just for fun. You see the fireflies are in different spots on this too. You could even add glitter to this if you wanted once it's totally dry. But I'm going to keep it simple and stop it here. And I hope you had fun. Find a little spot to sign your name once it's dry, and enjoy. Please share your picture in the club, and I can't wait to see it. All right, everybody, have a great day.